Before you scroll away, pause for just 1 second and imagine this: a shy Filipino teenager, trembling backstage, clutching a borrowed microphone, about to step onto one of the biggest stages in the world. The judges don't know his name. The audience doesn't expect much. But what happens next shocks everyone, including the boy himself. Stay with this story until the very end, because it might just change how you see fear, talent, and yourself. And if stories like this inspire you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss moments that remind us what's possible. Yellowheart. He grew up in a small neighborhood where houses leaned close together and dreams felt just as cramped. His name was Miguel, a quiet teenager who spoke more with his eyes than his voice. In school, he sat at the back, hoodie pulled low, hoping teachers wouldn't call his name. Kids knew him as that quiet guy, the one who never joined conversations, never raised his hand. But at home, when the lights were low and everyone was asleep, Miguel transformed. With an old phone playing crackly songs and a cheap mirror taped to the wall, he became someone else. He sang Elvis Presley songs softly at first, then louder when courage crept in. The hips, the voice, the emotion, it all poured out in secret. Elvis didn't just sound cool to Miguel. Elvis felt like freedom. His parents worked long hours, doing everything they could just to keep food on the table. They loved him deeply, but survival came first. When Miguel once mentioned wanting singing lessons, his mother smiled sadly and said, "Maybe someday, Anik." That someday felt very far away. So Miguel practiced alone. He watched old performances on borrowed internet, mimicking every move, every breath. Music became his hiding place, but also his hope. Still, the fear never left him. The thought of singing in front of people made his chest tighten. What if they laughed? What if he failed? For years, he kept his talent locked away. Everything changed one afternoon when a classmate overheard him humming in an empty classroom. Instead of mocking him, she stared in disbelief. "You sound like Elvis," she whispered. The words hit Miguel harder than any insult ever could. She encouraged him to join a local talent show. He said no. Then no again. And again. But the idea planted a seed. Weeks later, shaking but determined, Miguel stepped onto a tiny stage in a crowded barangay hall. His knees nearly gave out. His voice cracked on the first note. A few people snickered. Then something happened. He closed his eyes, imagined his bedroom mirror, and sang like no one was watching. By the end, the room was silent. Then came applause. Real applause. For the first time, Miguel felt seen. That small victory led to bigger steps, and eventually, to an impossible idea: auditioning for America's Got Talent. The application alone felt terrifying. Sending a video of himself singing Elvis to the world? His hands shook as he pressed submit. Months passed. Then one email arrived. He had been selected. Miguel cried quietly so no one would hear. His parents held him, proud but worried. They had never traveled that far. Neither had he. Fear followed him all the way to the AGT stage. Backstage, the lights were blinding, the noise overwhelming. Contestants stretched, prayed, paced. Miguel stood frozen. He almost walked away. He thought of the shy boy at the back of the classroom, the late night singing to a mirror, the someday his mother once spoke. When his name was called, his heart pounded so loudly he thought the judges could hear it. He stepped onto the stage, small against the massive crowd. Simon raised an eyebrow. The audience murmured. Miguel introduced himself softly, his accent thick, his voice barely steady. Then the music started. The first note came out strong, rich, and confident, nothing like the boy who stood there moments before. Gasps rippled through the theater. His voice carried pain, passion, and soul far beyond his years. He moved like Elvis, but he didn't copy him, he honored him. By the chorus, the audience was on their feet. Some were crying. The judges stared in disbelief. When the final note faded, there was a split second of silence. Then the explosion. Cheers, screams, a standing ovation that felt endless. Miguel's hands flew to his mouth as tears streamed down his face. He had done it. Against fear, against doubt, against every voice that ever told him he was too shy, too small, too late. The judges praised not just his talent, but his courage. One of them said, "You didn't just sing a song. You told your story." That moment went viral within hours. Millions watched a shy Filipino teen become a legend overnight. Comments flooded in from all over the world, from kids who felt invisible, from parents who saw their children in him, from dreamers who had almost given up. Miguel didn't win the entire competition, but he won something greater. He won belief in himself and in the power of stepping forward even when your voice shakes. Today, he still sings, still honors Elvis, but most importantly, he inspires others to stop hiding their gifts. So if you're watching this and thinking your dream is too big, or you're too shy, or the world won't listen, remember Miguel. Remember that legends don't start loud. They start quiet, in small rooms, with big hearts. If this story moved you even a little, tap like, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us all, your moment might be closer than you think. Before anything else, don't blink. Because the next few minutes tell the story of a boy who almost walked off the biggest stage of his life, and instead walked into history. What you're about to hear isn't just about music. It's about fear, faith, and a voice that refused to stay hidden. Watch until the end, and if this story touches your heart, hit like and subscribe, because stories like this deserve to be shared. Yellowheart. In a quiet corner of the Philippines, there lived a teenager named Adrian who had mastered the art of disappearing. He was the kind of kid teachers forgot to mark absent because he never caused trouble. His shoulders were always slightly hunched, as if he was apologizing for taking up space. Crowded rooms made him nervous. Eye contact made his palms sweat. But inside that fragile silence lived something powerful, a voice soaked in old soul and heartbreak, inspired by a legend long gone. Elvis Presley wasn't just music to Adrian. Elvis was courage wrapped in melody. Adrian discovered Elvis through his late grandfather, who used to play worn-out cassette tapes on a radio with a broken antenna. Those afternoons were the only times Adrian felt safe speaking, singing softly along while his grandfather tapped the rhythm on the table. When his grandfather passed away, the house felt emptier than ever. Singing became Adrian's way of keeping him alive. Every note carried memory. Every lyric carried pain. But no one outside those walls ever heard him. At school, Adrian was bullied, not loudly, but quietly, which somehow hurt more. Mocking glances. Imitations of his accent. Whispers when he walked by. He learned that staying silent meant staying safe. So he buried his dream deep, convinced the world wasn't meant to hear voices like his. His family struggled financially, and the idea of chasing music felt selfish. Survival came first. Dreams came later, if ever. One night, after another exhausting day, Adrian recorded himself singing an Elvis song on his phone. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. With trembling fingers, he posted it online to a small page with barely any followers. He expected nothing. By morning, thousands had watched it. Comments poured in, calling his voice timeless, haunting, unbelievable. Adrian stared at the screen, convinced it was a mistake. For the first time, strangers saw him, not his fear, not his shyness, but his soul. Encouraged by friends and family, Adrian auditioned for local competitions, each one testing his nerves. Sometimes his voice shook. Sometimes he forgot lyrics. But each time, he stood a little taller. Then came the impossible opportunity, America's Got Talent. Just saying the name made his stomach twist. He almost didn't apply. Almost deleted the email. Almost stayed the same shy boy forever. But he remembered his grandfather's voice saying, "If you're scared, it means it matters." The day of the audition, the AGT stage felt like another universe. Bright lights. Famous judges. Thousands of eyes waiting to judge, to doubt, to dismiss. Adrian's chest tightened. His mind screamed, "Run." His hands trembled so badly he nearly dropped the microphone. When asked how he felt, he answered honestly, terrified. The audience laughed gently. He swallowed hard. Then the music began. The first note sliced through the room like lightning. Stop scrolling, because the next story begins with a boy who almost whispered his dream away forever. A boy so shy that even his own voice scared him, until one night, on the biggest stage in the world, that same voice made millions stand up in shock. Watch this story all the way through, and if it inspires you even a little, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach the people who need them most. Yellowheart. His name was Daniel, and growing up in the Philippines, he learned early how to stay unnoticed. He walked with his head down, spoke only when spoken to, and smiled politely even when his heart was heavy. In school, he was invisible. Not because people were cruel all the time, but because no one really looked at him. Teachers praised louder students. Classmates gathered around confident voices. Daniel stayed quiet, carrying a secret that felt too big for his chest. When he was alone, truly alone, he sang. And when he sang Elvis Presley songs, his fear melted away. It started when he was a child, watching old DVDs borrowed from a neighbor. The way Elvis moved, the way he sang with pain and passion, it felt like someone had put Daniel's emotions into music. He practiced in the bathroom so no one could hear. He sang into a spoon instead of a microphone. Sometimes he imagined a crowd cheering, but most nights he laughed at himself for even dreaming that big. Dreams were dangerous when you didn't have money, confidence, or connections. Daniel's family loved him deeply, but life was hard. His parents worked non-stop, and music was seen as a hobby, not a future. When relatives asked what he wanted to be someday, Daniel just shrugged. Saying singer out loud felt embarrassing, almost disrespectful to the sacrifices around him. So he kept quiet. Again. But silence has a way of building pressure. One evening, after a particularly rough day of being ignored and overlooked, Daniel recorded himself singing an Elvis song on his phone. His hands shook as he listened back. He almost deleted it. Instead, he posted it online with no caption, no expectations. He went to sleep thinking nothing would come of it. When he woke up, his phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Strangers were sharing the video, commenting in disbelief. This voice is unreal. Why isn't he famous? I have goosebumps. For the first time in his life, Daniel felt something unfamiliar: validation. That small spark pushed him forward. He began performing at small events, then local competitions. Every performance was a battle against his own nerves. Sometimes his knees shook so badly he thought he would fall. Sometimes his voice cracked. But people listened. And every time they applauded, his fear loosened its grip just a little. Then came the opportunity that felt unreal: America's Got Talent. The application process terrified him. He re-recorded his audition video countless times. He considered backing out more than once. People like me don't belong there, he told himself. But a quiet voice inside whispered back, what if you do? When he received the confirmation email, he cried, not from joy alone, but from fear of what came next. Standing backstage at AGT, Daniel felt smaller than ever. The lights were blinding. The judges were legends. The audience felt endless. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might drown out the music. For a moment, he truly considered walking away. No one would blame him. But then he remembered all the years he spent hiding, all the nights singing in secret, all the times he chose silence over truth. He stepped onto the stage. The judges looked curious but unsure. Daniel introduced himself softly. Some people leaned forward, trying to hear him. When the music began, he closed his eyes and sang. The first note stunned the room. It wasn't just good. It was raw, emotional, and powerful in a way no one expected from the shy teen standing there. His voice carried heartbreak, hope, and hunger all at once. You could feel the years of silence in every word. Gasps spread through the audience. Then cheers. Then a standing ovation before the song even ended. The judge's expression shifted from doubt to disbelief. When Daniel finished, he stood frozen, tears streaming down his face. He hadn't imagined it. They were cheering for him. The audition exploded online. Millions watched a shy Filipino teen transform into a viral legend overnight. People around the world saw themselves in him, the quiet ones, the overlooked ones, the ones afraid to speak. Daniel didn't just sing like Elvis. He reminded everyone that greatness doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes, it whispers, until the right moment. Daniel didn't win the entire competition, but he won something far greater. He proved that fear doesn't mean stop. Fear means go anyway. So if you're watching this while hiding a dream, doubting your voice, or waiting for the right time, this is your sign. You don't need permission to be heard. If this story moved you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs courage today. Because somewhere out there, another quiet legend is waiting to be heard. Face screaming in fear. Yellow heart. Wait, before you skip this, listen closely. Because this story begins with a boy whose hands were shaking so badly backstage that he almost dropped the microphone, and ends with an entire world standing on its feet. If you believe dreams can come from the quietest places, stay until the very end. And if this story touches you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach the hearts that need them most. Yellow heart. In a modest Filipino household where nights were filled with electric fan noise and distant traffic, lived a teenage boy named Joshua. He wasn't the type people noticed. He didn't crack jokes in class or raise his hand to answer questions. He avoided attention the way others chased it. Teachers described him as well-behaved but very quiet. Classmates barely knew his voice. Joshua learned early that being shy meant being overlooked, and over time, he accepted that as his place in the world. But inside him lived a sound that refused to disappear. Joshua discovered Elvis Presley through old DVDs his uncle kept in a dusty cabinet. One afternoon, curious and bored, he pressed play, and everything changed. The voice that poured out of the speakers felt alive, emotional, fearless. Elvis sang like he had nothing to lose. Joshua felt something unlock inside his chest. That night, when everyone was asleep, he sang for the first time out loud. It was soft. Uncertain. But it felt right. From then on, singing became his secret escape. In the bathroom. In the kitchen late at night. In front of a cracked mirror where he imagined a crowd that would never exist. Life wasn't easy. His parents worked tirelessly, and money was always tight. Music wasn't discussed as a future, it was a luxury. Joshua understood that. He never asked for lessons. Never mentioned auditions. He convinced himself that talent was meaningless without confidence, and confidence was something other people were born with. Not him. At school, his shyness often turned into isolation. He was laughed at for his quietness, ignored in group activities, and sometimes mocked for singing old songs instead of trending hits. Each comment pushed him further into silence. Still, when he sang Elvis songs alone, he felt brave in a way he never did in real life. One evening, after a particularly painful day of feeling invisible, Joshua recorded himself singing on his phone. He watched the video over and over, criticizing every flaw. He almost deleted it. Instead, with a racing heart, he uploaded it online. No caption. No explanation. Just his voice. Then he put his phone down and tried to forget about it. By morning, everything was different. The video had spread faster than he could understand. Comments poured in from strangers across the world. People called his voice timeless, emotional, unexpected. Joshua stared at the screen in disbelief. For the first time, people weren't seeing his shyness, they were hearing his soul. That moment changed him. Slowly, carefully, Joshua began saying yes to opportunities that scared him. Small performances. Local competitions. Each stage felt like a mountain. His legs shook. His voice wavered. But people listened. And every clap chipped away at the fear that had controlled him for years. Then came the moment that felt impossible, an invitation to audition for America's Got Talent. Joshua nearly turned it down. Flying to another country. Singing in front of celebrity judges. Being judged by millions. It felt unreal and terrifying. But something inside him whispered that this might be the only chance to stop hiding. With his family's support and his heart pounding with fear and hope, he stepped into the biggest moment of his life. Backstage at AGT. Don't click away yet, because the story you're about to hear starts with a boy who could barely introduce himself without shaking, and ends with a moment so powerful it left millions speechless. If you've ever felt too shy, too small, or too invisible to chase your dream, stay until the end. And if stories like this inspire you, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Yellowheart. In a quiet Filipino town where afternoons moved slowly and dreams were often whispered instead of spoken, there lived a teenage boy named Marco. He wasn't known for anything special. He didn't stand out in class. He didn't lead groups or join competitions. Most people barely noticed him at all. Marco had learned how to disappear in plain sight. He spoke softly, avoided attention, and kept his head down, especially when people laughed a little too loudly nearby. Being shy wasn't just part of his personality, it was his armor. But when Marco was alone, that armor came off. Late at night, when the house finally fell silent, he would play old Elvis Presley songs on his phone, the volume low but his emotions high. He didn't understand every word when he was younger, but he felt the feeling. The longing. The pain. The confidence Elvis carried in his voice. When Marco sang along, something inside him felt brave. In those moments, he wasn't the shy kid everyone overlooked, he was powerful, expressive, alive. But only the walls ever heard him. Marco's family struggled to make ends meet. His parents worked long hours, and conversations were usually about bills, school, and responsibilities. Music was never discussed as a future. It was something people enjoyed, not something they became. Marco understood that, so he never asked for lessons or opportunities. He told himself singing was just a hobby, something to keep him company in the dark. Still, every time he finished a song, he wondered what it would feel like to be heard. At school, his shyness made him an easy target. Not always openly bullied, but quietly dismissed. Group projects ignored him. Jokes were made when teachers weren't listening. Some classmates mocked his taste in old music, calling it weird or outdated. Each comment pushed him further inward. Marco started believing that even if he had something special, the world wasn't interested in listening. One night, after another day of feeling invisible, Marco did something he had never done before. He recorded himself singing an Elvis song on his phone. He watched the video with a critical eye, noticing every flaw. His voice shook at parts. His accent was obvious. His hands trembled. He almost deleted it. Instead, with his heart pounding, he uploaded it online and put his phone away, convincing himself nothing would come of it. By the next morning, his life had changed. Notifications flooded his screen. Views climbed into the thousands. Then hundreds of thousands. Comments came from people he didn't know, from places he had never been. This gave me chills. Why is this not famous already? This voice is special. Marco sat on his bed, staring at his phone, tears quietly falling. For the first time, people weren't overlooking him. They were listening. That moment gave him courage, but courage didn't erase fear overnight. Marco began performing at small local events, his nerves battling his voice every time. His legs shook on stage. Sometimes his voice cracked. But people clapped. Some cried. Some asked for photos. Slowly, Marco began to believe that maybe his voice deserved space in the world. Then came the email that felt unreal, an invitation to audition for America's Got Talent. Marco thought it was a mistake. He reread it again and again. Performing on one of the biggest stages in the world felt impossible for someone like him. He nearly said no. Fear whispered every reason to stay safe, to stay small. But another voice, quiet, familiar, reminded him of all the years he spent singing alone, wishing someone would hear him. The day of the audition, Marco's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Backstage, surrounded by confident performers and bright lights, he felt like he didn't belong. His heart raced. His thoughts screamed, "Run!" When his name was called, he froze for a moment, then stepped forward. On stage, the judges waited. The audience watched. Marco introduced himself softly, almost apologetically. Some people leaned in, unsure of what to expect. Then the music started. The first note stunned the room. His voice was rich, emotional, and filled with years of hidden pain and hope. It wasn't just a performance, it was a release. Every lyric carried the weight of being unseen, unheard, and finally understood. The audience gasped. Applause began before the song even ended. Judges stared in disbelief. One smiled wide. Another wiped away tears. When Marco finished, the silence lasted just a heartbeat, then the room exploded. Cheers. Standing ovations. Marco covered his face, overwhelmed. For the first time in his life, his shyness hadn't held him back. It had made his moment even more powerful. That audition went viral across the world. Millions watched a shy Filipino teen transform into a viral legend in just minutes. People everywhere saw themselves in Marco, the quiet ones, the fearful ones, the dreamers who kept their gifts hidden. He didn't just sing like Elvis. He proved that greatness doesn't need to shout to be heard. Marco didn't win the entire competition, but he won something far greater. He won courage. He won confidence. And he inspired countless others to stop hiding their voices. So if you're watching this while doubting yourself, hiding your talent, or waiting for confidence to arrive, remember this story. Confidence doesn't come first. Courage does. If this story moved you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs this reminder today. Because the next viral legend might still be singing in silence, waiting for the moment to be heard. Face screaming in fear. Yellow heart. Listen, before this video goes any further, I need you to imagine something. A teenage boy standing alone behind a curtain, hands shaking, heart racing, convinced he doesn't belong. One step forward could change his life forever, or confirm every fear he's ever had. This is the moment where most people turn back. But he didn't. Stay with this story until the end, because it's not just about music, it's about finding your voice when the world has taught you to stay quiet. And if this story inspires you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps stories like this reach others who need hope. Yellowheart. In a small Filipino community where everyone knew each other's struggles, there lived a boy named Rafael. He was painfully shy, the kind of shy that made his voice disappear when strangers spoke to him. In class, his teachers praised his behavior but worried about his silence. His classmates rarely noticed him unless they needed an extra body for group work. Rafael learned early that staying quiet meant staying safe. Attention brought judgment, and judgment brought pain. But music found him anyway. Rafael's love for Elvis Presley began almost by accident. One rainy afternoon, while helping his mother clean an old storage room, he found a dusty DVD player and a stack of worn discs. When Elvis appeared on the screen, something inside Rafael stirred. The confidence, the emotion, the way Elvis sang like he meant every word, it was everything Rafael felt but could never say. From that day on, he practiced in secret. He sang softly at first, afraid even the walls might judge him. Over time, his voice grew stronger, richer, filled with emotion far beyond his years. At home, life was simple but hard. His parents worked tirelessly, and money was always tight. Dreams were a luxury they couldn't afford to talk about. Rafael understood that. He never told them that singing made him feel alive. He never asked for lessons. He never imagined a future on stage. Singing was just something he did when the world felt too heavy. School wasn't much kinder. His shyness often turned into loneliness. Some students mocked him for liking old people's music. Others ignored him completely. Rafael smiled through it all, pretending it didn't hurt. But every comment carved out a little deeper. Who was he to dream big when he couldn't even speak confidently? One night, after a day that left him feeling especially invisible, Rafael did something brave. He recorded himself singing an Elvis song on his phone. He listened back, noticing every imperfection. His accent. His shaking hands. His nervous breath. He almost deleted it. Almost. Instead, with a pounding heart, he posted it online to a small platform, telling himself no one would notice. People noticed. By morning, the video had thousands of views. By night, it